You never plan to become the most dangerous person in the city. You just answer the phone. At 2:13 a.m., a woman whispers that somebody is trying her back door. You can hear the knob rattling through the line, metal against metal, fast and desperate. You ask for the address, type it in, watch the patrol map bloom across your screen, and already know exactly how long it takes Unit 42 to get there from the South Precinct on a Tuesday. 6 minutes if the lights are green, 9 if the freight train is still crawling over Jefferson. Tonight, the train is moving slow. You tell her officers are on the way. Then you mute your headset, copy the address onto a yellow sticky note, and slide it into your jacket pocket. That is how it works. Not every call, just the useful ones. You sit in a room with no windows, under fluorescent lights that make everybody look tired and slightly guilty. 12 consoles, 12 voices trying to stay calm while the city burns in small, private ways. Overdoses, break-ins, domestic fights, stolen cars, drunk men with chest pain who insist they are fine, right up until they stop talking. You learn quickly that every neighborhood has a rhythm, and every shift has gaps. Which intersections clog at 5:40 p.m., which beats run short after midnight, which apartment complexes take 7 extra minutes because the gates never open, and nobody answers the call box. The public thinks police response is a promise. You know it is math. The first time you sell that math, it does not even feel like corruption. It feels like survival. Your rent jumps $380 in 1 year. Your mother's dialysis schedule changes, and suddenly the rideshare bills alone are $140 a week. Your little brother Eli loses his warehouse job after the place cuts night staff, and now everybody in your family is looking at you because you are the one with the city badge and the health insurance and the steady paycheck that is not actually steady enough. The offer comes from a man named Reggie, who smells like peppermint gum and expensive detergent. He waits outside the employee entrance at 6:07 a.m., like he knows your schedule better than you do. He says he doesn't need addresses fed to him every night. He just wants timing, patterns, which zones are slow, which nights the north side runs thin. He slides an envelope into your hand with $2,000 in it and calls it consulting. You should walk straight past him. You do not, because $2,000 is 1 month of rent and 3 dialysis trips and the overdue electric bill, and Eli pretending not to notice when the fridge is empty. So you tell yourself you aren't hurting anyone. You aren't opening doors. You aren't holding a gun. You aren't even giving him names. Just windows. 8 minutes here, 11 there. Avoid Thursdays in District 3 because the sergeant runs hot and everybody falls in line. Hit gated communities when the rain starts because response drags and camera footage goes soft. It's disgusting how easy it is. It's more disgusting how quickly it becomes routine. The money arrives every other Friday in clean white envelopes. Reggie never asks for more than you can explain away to yourself. At first. Then the burglaries become home invasions. Not many, just enough to change the temperature in the room. A jewelry store owner pistol-whipped in his own kitchen. A retired couple zip-tied while somebody tears open their bedroom floor safe. A pharmacist in Eastwood with 3 broken ribs and a concussion because he reaches for the silent alarm too fast. You hear those calls live. Sometimes you hear the screaming before the address even populates. You dispatch units with the same steady voice you always use, and then you go home and stare at your own front door like it might start splintering inward. You tell Reggie you're out. He smiles like you've made a joke. He reminds you your mother lives on Maple and takes the van service home every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 4:30 p.m. He reminds you Eli owes money to people stupider than he is. He reminds you that nobody has forced you to take anything. There is no gun on the table, no explicit threat. Just a man calmly demonstrating that your life has already been indexed, tagged, and priced. So, you keep going. Nina starts 2 desks from you in October. 24, fresh academy transfer, voice too warm for this room. She brings cut fruit in little plastic containers and still says things like, "Maybe today will be quiet." Everybody laughs at her for that. She laughs too, which somehow makes it worse. She keeps a list of regular callers in a notebook decorated with tiny stars. Mrs. Alvarez on 8th, who calls whenever she hears fireworks because her husband used to flinch the same way in Vietnam. Mr. Donnelly in the towers, who says he's having a heart attack every time the neighbor's grandson parks in his disabled space. Nina treats them all like they matter exactly the same amount. You don't mean to like her. People like Nina are dangerous because they make you remember what normal feels like. One night at 1:42 a.m., a little boy calls from a bathroom. He can't be older than 8. He whispers that 2 men are downstairs with masks on, and his dad is bleeding, and he can hear drawers opening. You keep him talking. Ask about the lock. Ask whether he can stay low. Ask if there's a window. Your fingers move over the keyboard without conscious thought, dispatching units, updating notes, marking the presence of children in the home. Then you see the address. You know the address because you gave Reggie that block 2 days ago. Response gap after midnight, 10 to 12 minutes if units are tied up west of the river. Nina looks over because your face changes. She mouths, "You okay?" You say yes, and lie so cleanly it scares you. The boy asks if his dad is dead. You tell him not to leave the bathroom. Afterward, when the units clear the scene and homicide takes over, and the notes lock in the system forever, you go into the restroom, grip the sink so hard your knuckles burn, and throw up coffee and acid into a drain that smells like bleach. The next morning, you call Reggie from a prepaid phone and tell him if he ever sends a crew into a house with kids again, you go to Internal Affairs, the state police, federal, whoever listens first. Reggie says something quiet that lands harder than shouting. He says he doesn't send crews anywhere. He says all he does is buy weather reports. Storm or no storm, people make their own choices when they step outside. Then he hangs up. That line stays with you because you hate how much truth there is in it. You don't kick in the doors. You don't zip tie anybody. You don't make the boy whisper into the phone while his father bleeds downstairs. But none of that matters enough. You're in it. The chain runs through you, whether you like the wording or not. The audit begins 3 weeks later. Officially, it's random. Unofficially, nothing in dispatch is random. 2 supervisors from downtown appear on a Monday with badge clips and careful smiles. They pull response logs, access histories, shift rosters. They ask about unauthorized printouts, console idle time, secondary notepads. Somebody in burglary notices the crews start hitting only during predictable thin spots. Somebody smart draws a line from the street back to the room with the maps. Nina gets questioned before you do. You know because she comes back pale and angry, sets her headset down too hard, and says they ask whether anybody ever photographs screens or writes down sector delays. She laughs once, sharp and humorless. Then she says, "Imagine being dirty in a room like this." You can't look at her. That night, Eli calls asking if you can cover $600 or his car gets taken. Your mother leaves a voicemail about missing one of her treatments because the van service is late again. Reggie texts a single address and a time window. No greeting, no explanation. Just 11:20 to 11:31. Detached house, 1 occupant, safe in basement. You should ignore it, delete it, burn everything. Instead, you do the thing you haven't done once since this started. You make a choice. Not the safe one, the expensive one. At 11:12 p.m., you flag a false escalation on a separate call to keep 2 units drifting near the listed address. At 11:18, you anonymously forward Reggie's text and 3 months of pay app screenshots to an email address buried in the Internal Affairs portal. At 11:22, your heartbeat is so loud inside your headset you miss the first half of a traffic stop. At 11:24, the home invasion all comes in from the target house. At 11:26, Unit 31 is already turning onto the block. At 11:27, somebody on the open police channel shouts that one suspect is down in the side yard and another is running east through the alley. At 11:28, your supervisor is staring at your screen because Internal Affairs, in their infinite wisdom, decides tonight is the night to come downstairs in person. You keep dispatching. Ambulance requested. Scene not secure. One officer reports shots fired. Neighbors emerging onto porches in robes and socks.
You hear the whole thing in fragments, the city tearing open in real time, and know with absolute certainty that Reggie will understand what you did. By 3:10 a.m., they have your badge on the desk. By 3:25, they have your locker open. By 3:42, your phone is sealed in an evidence bag, and the detective with tired eyes is asking if you want a lawyer. You say yes. For the first time in months, you say the correct thing. Dawn comes gray and sour through the glass doors of headquarters. They walk you past officers who pretend not to look, and civilians who don't bother pretending. Nina is standing by the vending machines holding a coffee she's clearly forgotten to drink. She sees the two detectives beside you, sees your empty badge clip, sees your face, and understands enough. She doesn't say, "What's wrong with you?" or "How could you?" or "I trusted you." She just says very quietly,
Was any of it real? You open your mouth and realize there is no answer in the language that fixes anything. Your mother calls while they are inventorying your property. Eli texts 13 times in a row. Reggie does not call at all, which somehow feels worse. Men like Reggie do not waste words on endings. They just continue, with or without you. At 7:03 a.m., another 911 line lights up somewhere in the room you no longer work in. Somebody picks it up with your old script and your old cadence and says, "What is the address of your emergency?" The city keeps moving. It always does. You sit in an interview room with a paper cup of water and a public corruption detective who has already decided you are either a witness or a body, and both options sound temporary. Outside, sirens pass in waves. Inside, your full name waits at the top of a blank statement. And for the first time since you took Reggie's money, you understand the real price of response time. The line on the form says voluntary cooperation. The detective slides a pen toward you. Somewhere across town, a phone starts ringing in a house where nobody wants to answer the door anymore. You wrap your fingers around the pen. This is the part where storms choose whether to stay weather.